You're welcome back to the show. Sincere apologies for that quite long break. We had to fix a very quick technical hitch there. But we're here to start that conversation on the back of the minorities press conference earlier today. In the studio with me, like I said, is Samuel George. He is the NDC Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram, and he joins me. Thank you very much for coming. How are you doing?
Great.
How does it feel to be like? How does it feel like to be in opposition?
Oh, life as usual. Life goes on. We're still in service to Mother Ghana. And so we have a responsibility, an even bigger responsibility, to ensure that the government of the day does the right things and doesn't shortchange the Ghanaian people. And so we'll continue to serve Mother Ghana.
Okay, let's look at the press conference that you held earlier today. Was that a response to yesterday's 103, if you like, 104 achievements set out by, laid out by the Vice President?
Well, let me say a very good afternoon to our viewers. Let me put on record that we were not responding to the Vice President's town hall that was organized by Multimedia yesterday. Absolutely not. That's not what we're responding to. For us, we're putting out the facts as we know them. We're doing an assessment of the first 100 days of President Akufo-Addo, and post that we also went into some of the conflict of interest issues that have arisen in the past 100 days. And so for us, it's basically being a responsible opposition, holding government to account, letting the Ghanaian people know that the first 100 days of this administration have been characterized by the institutionalization of violence. We spoke about this in the lead up to the elections. Many people said it was political talk. They didn't believe us. We've seen it. The international community has had to wait in the United Nations. I mean, this is the first time we're ever having the United Nations caution Ghana on peace, stability, and respect for the judiciary. Ghana has always been a shining example on the international scene for our internal security and peace and stability and our respect for the judiciary. Unfortunately, we've lost that under this administration in 100 days. In 100 days, we've seen the issue of plagiarism and the international disgrace that was to us. In 100 days, we've seen a litany of broken promises that were basically are becoming clear to every Ghanaian now, were just convenient for the campaign season and not in reality well thought out policy plans. You've seen there's issues about the conflict of interest that I raised.
Yes, but let's deal with the broken promises bit that you mentioned. Even though you say the press conference was not necessarily to respond to the Vice President's town hall meeting yesterday, you speak about broken promises. What he said yesterday was that the promises, they did not make the promises for the 100 days, and it's fair. You don't make promises for 100 days. 100 days, even though 100 days gives us as citizens the opportunity to assess them so we can understand the direction they're taking us towards. It is still not enough to say that they have broken their promises. It's just 100 days. Isn't it early days yet?
Well, respectfully, the president wasn't honest to Ghanaians yesterday.
What do you mean?
He told a lie.
President,
the Vice President, sorry.
Which lie did he tell?
Well, he said they didn't make a promise of 100 days.
It was a promise for the term.
It's not true.
Term.
It's not true.
Why do you say so?
Because His Excellency, the Vice President, then Vice Presidential candidate, speaking on City FM's Breakfast Show with Bernard Able, made specific, categoric promises, issues that will be addressed in 100 days. He put a specific timeline to them. The president, then candidate.
What issues did he put timelines to?
I'll come to that. Not just the vice president. The president, who at the time was the flag bearer, also made several promises with timelines.
That point has been made. So give us the
I'll give you typical examples. Please. On the 31st of October, 2016, at the Ghana Institute of Engineers, the president, then candidate, Akufo-Addo, met with contractors, Ghanaian contractors, and gave them his word, assured them, promised them that in 100 days of him becoming president, he was going to pay all outstanding arrears owed contractors. That was 100-day promise. He said in 100 days, he will pay all outstanding arrears owed Ghanaian contractors. We were told by Vice President Baumia, then running mates to the flag bearer, that in 100 days, they were going to make all statutory payments that were in arrears. They won't pay them. The president told the people of the Brong-Ahafo region that those who had suffered under the DKM, Just That God Is Love scams, were going to have full restoration in 100 days.
Really?
Yes.
100 days was a part of
this, you go to, look, My Joy Online, your own network is full with many of these stories. If you want, I'll Google for you, where he was specific about 100 days. The president speaking in Kumasi at my alma mater, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, at the time, as candidate, what he said was very simple. He said that the university students were suffering because they were having to pay utility bills, and that in 100 days they were going to scrap utility bills for tertiary students. He made that promise in Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. The president, then candidate, Adman Chagbuena, made a point that electricity and utility tariffs were more expensive than house rent, and that in 100 days his government was going to abolish what he called, what we've termed ESLA, the nuisance, he called them nuisance taxes, the energy sector levies. We've seen the budget. This is the budget.
The process is ongoing. The process is ongoing.
We've seen the budget.
The process is ongoing.
What process?
The process is ongoing. I
mean,
they
abolishment of energy sector levies, please, no. We have read, the budget has been read. We've approved the amendments to the bills to enable government to do it. The energy sector levies are staying put. It's not being taken out. So nobody can talk about processes. If we are talking about processes, he spoke about initiating processes for a national identification scheme. Yes. The processes are ongoing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the promises they made to Ghanaians in 100 days that they have failed wantonly.
Okay.
DKM is not in this budget. Nothing they said is in this budget.
I don't recollect that there was a 100-day cap on the DKM promise, by the way.
It was in a press in a rally that was held in the Bongahafo region in Sunyani, to be precise,
in
on the 26th of May 2016. 100-day promise to the DKM people. That's why the Bongahafo region voted that way, and they won massively. That's why the university students voted massively for them. My two siblings are still in the university. They are paying utility bills, even though the president is in power for 100 days. Utility tariffs, has your light bill reduced? Has your water bill reduced? We were told that fuel prices will come down. Fuel prices have increased by 19%. It increased by 21%, and then they dropped by 2%, and they are telling us that fuel prices have come down. I mean, do they take us for kids in this country? You increase something by 21% and then drop it by 2%, and then you tell us that you drop prices. This government is robbing Peter to pay Peter, not to even pay Paul. They are taking money away from the constituencies and the MPs through the District Assembly's Common Fund, a reduction in District Assembly's Common Fund from 7.5% to 5%, and telling us that they are giving us $1 million.
You mean the cutting down on internally generated funds?
That is even different from capping of the District Assembly's Common Fund itself.
That is supposed to channel some of these finances into developmental programs in the district. That is even the biggest
deception of our republic.
Why, sir?
60 years of our nationhood, that has been the biggest hoodwink of Ghanaians. What did they tell Ghanaians? The president told us when he went up north, then as candidate, in the northern region, he promised one village, one dam. You remember? At another program, he promised one district, one factory. At another program, Dr. Baumia promised 1 million, one constituency.
Right.
Now, when they bring the budget to us in Parliament to read the budget, they say the $1 million per constituency. It is from that $1 million per constituency that they are going to fund the one district, one factory. It is from that same that $1 million that they are going to fund the one village, one dam. It is from that same $1 million that they are going to do sanitation projects. It is from that same $1 million they are going to do water projects.
Your point is that $1 million is not enough.
It is not for any constituency. They shouldn't say $1 million per constituency because it is not for the constituency.
You don't speak for them.
No, but it is the truth. They told us what they would do.
This is what they want to do.
But listen, my dear, they told us what they would do. Now the Ghanaians voted for them. But they have come to power, and then they are changing what they told us they would do. Is that honesty?
Are you? When they came, basically, they said that you left so much emptiness that it has to take some time. It has to take some time for the government to put everything together and deal with the losses, for instance, that the NDC administration made us incur. So perhaps working at it, slowly. You
say we left so much losses, and when we're leaving the losses, we had 78 ministers, and you said that was too big. It was a drain on the public purse. You, who is supposed to come in and now help us refill, you come in with 110 ministers and counting.
They've explained.
Absolute hogwash.
They've explained and said
absolute hogwash and blatherdash.
The explanation
it
is
makes
that
absolutely no sense.
This is
it
not
is to be told to the
business as
Marines,
usual.
and we have seen the partying going on. In 100 days, we have seen a victory party in Accra by the president. We've seen another one in Chebi by the president. We've seen the president celebrate his birthday party.
Well, people
we've seen his
seriously?
oh please, not with not with personally branded champagne drinks. We've seen those pictures.
Excuse me.
We saw the president last year. Did the president celebrate his birthday? The president was 15 years in marriage 5 years ago with his wife.
So
there was no lavish party. They celebrated 20. So a country that you tell me is broke. In 100 days,
cannot celebrate
in 100 days, in 100 days. You see, this is the hypocrisy of the media that at times gets to some of us. If this was John Mahama, all hell would break loose. But you see, in 100 days, see the number of parties. Let me just list the parties. You don't want me to list the parties.
You will list it, but hold on. The issue about you, and especially people who go into opposition, always clamping down or always citing the media for hypocrisy, I think is neither here nor there. But the point is that before you even go on hitting at the media, let's deal with the issues on the table. The issues on the table, you say that the president has celebrated his birthday party. There have been
let's start from the victory party. 2 victory parties.
You say there have been
his birthday, his wife's birthday, then their 20th anniversary. 5 parties in 100 days. That is a party for every 20 days.
Okay, so that for you is problematic because it cost us as a country.
In a country that you tell us is broke. In a country that you tell us that things are so bad.
Hold on. What evidence do you have to prove that all of these victory parties and the president's birthday are sponsored by monies from the state coffers?
We have challenged them several times to disclose to us the source of funding.
Well, if you don't have evidence,
no, listen.
Why do you go out there to say that?
Why the president didn't have a birthday in the 8 years he was in opposition? The 8 years the president was in opposition, he didn't celebrate his birthday, or his birthday was deleted from the calendar.
He's president now, so the likelihood that it will be out there
so
the likelihood that the celebration will be out there is higher.
His Excellency William Akufo-Addo, our president, has never been, at least for the past 30 years, has never been a private person.
So your point is?
If he had celebrated parties with personalized and customized branded champagnes, we would all have seen it in this country.
You think he can't? He and his family cannot afford that if they weren't to
I'm saying that, look, you see, politics is 90% perception, 100% reality, 10% reality. If you are telling us that this country is so broke, yet you can organize 5 parties, and these are just the publicly known ones, 5 parties in 100 days, you can have 110 ministers when you say we had only 78 was too large. And you are telling us that there's no implication to the Ghanaian taxpayer. The Ghanaian taxpayer is going to have to accommodate the additional 30 thereabout ministers that you're having, 32 ministers that you're having.
That's because they say that what you left behind is nothing to work with, so that they have to put in so many people because the work
I'll
is
give
huge.
You a typical example. I'll give you a typical example of why that is absolute balderdash. Look, you had one minister for transport. That minister for transport oversaw the contract to MPS, which is supposed to see the expansion of Temahabo by 4 times. We are increasing the size of Temahabo by 4 times, 400%. One minister for transport. You've seen the expansion of Takrady Harbour already. You've seen the Ayalolo and Metro Mass buses coming in. The expansion of that. You've seen several, the airports that have been built, expansion of Kotoka International Airport, the works that have been done in Tamale, all under one minister for transport. Then that same ministry for transport, one minister, one deputy, 2 people. Now in this government, from the Ministry of Transport, you have the Ministry of Aviation, a minister and a deputy. Then you have the Ministry of Ports and Harbour, a minister and 2 deputies. Then you have the Ministry for Railway Development, a minister and deputies. Then you now have a minister for transport. How many ministers to do a job 2 people did? Now you have 8 people doing that job. The job 2 people did, 8 people are doing the job. How can it possibly make sense for us? Take communication and information. We brought communication and information together, 1 minister, 2 deputies, so 3 people. Now you split up the ministry. The Ministry of Communication, you have 1 minister and 2 deputies. Then the Minister for Information, Ministry for Information, you have 1 minister and 3 deputies of information. 3 information deputy ministers. What are they doing? It's 1 deputy minister for Facebook, the another one is for Twitter, another one is for Instagram. What are we talking about? Look, let's get serious in this country. What are the 4 ministers doing at the information ministry? And when it is 100 days in government, it is the vice president who is now acting as the de facto minister for information. So
what does that mean?
What is the
what does that mean?
You won't pay attention.
No. If you say
the minister for, I'm saying, listen again.
If you say the vice president is being the minister for information, that's what I'm asking what it means.
Who's been talking all around about 100 days?
Well, yesterday we hosted him in a town hall project. A town hall project. That
when you have a full minister for information and one deputy minister for information for Facebook, another deputy minister for information for Twitter, another deputy minister for information for Instagram,
we don't know that
all
the
these four deputy ministers, none of them will come to the town hall.
Instagram, and they were there. The minister of information was there. Kojo Ponkrumah, the deputy,
so it means that.
But,
so is the suggestion being made to us now that the ministers or the people put in charge of information are substandard? So the vice president himself has to come out to come and be the one to speak.
Sam George,
anyway, let's go to conflict of
interest. What is wrong with engaging the vice president on a holiday on national issues?
The 100-day, we've had this 100-day thing adopted from foreign jurisdictions, and it's best practices.
Right.
And since 1992, or at least you can say since 2000, it's always been the president, not the vice president, who hosts a program where they speak about their achievements.
It's not cast in stone.
So seeing our vice president being the one to do it.
You have a problem with that?
And on the back of a minister for communication and 2 deputies,
anyway,
and then a minister for information and 3 deputies, it is worrying.
Now let's come to conflict of interest. Conflict of interest, but are you expecting government to respond to the press conference that you had today?
They have no business responding to us. They have business working for the people and addressing the issues we've raised. The fact that the president now, the international community is confused whether he's commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces or commander-in-chief of the Invisible and Delta Forces. They don't know.
They know.
They don't. When our president goes for foreign
criminality.
No, when our president goes for foreign, when he goes for foreign activities now, they don't know how to address him. Whether to address him as president and commander-in-chief of the Ghanaian Armed Forces or president and commander-in-chief of the Invisible and Delta Forces. We don't know. Or better still, Kandahar Forces or Bolga Bulldogs.
Okay, hold on for me. I'd like for you to listen to the Deputy Minister of Information, Kojo Ponkrumah, earlier this morning. He has some things to say on the back of what the Vice President said, and I'd like for you to listen so we can talk about that in a bit.
Sure.
There are the revenue bills. The revenue bills are the bills that contain the taxes. So, for example, the Energy Sector Levies Act contains about, I think about 5 different levies.
Right.
When you read the budget is in 2 parts. And if you look at the front page of the budget, it says that this is the economic policy and budget. So the policy is first approved. I had a lot of your colleagues reporting that the budget had been approved. No, the budget had not been approved at the time. It was a policy statement that was approved.
Right.
Then you come with the specific bills, which are the revenue bills or the appropriation bills. The revenue bills are the ones that affect the revenue items. The appropriation bills are the ones that affect the expenditure items.
Right.
Now, when the specific revenue bills, like the Special Import Levy Amendment Act, like the the Petroleum Tax Amendments were passed, you saw a marginal decline in fuel prices because fuel prices contain 3 elements. One, what you would typically call the FOB price or the actual cost of crude.
Right.
2, the exchange rate prevailing at the time. And 3, the taxation regime that has been imposed on it. Now, government may not have power over the cost of crude on the global market. Even if we are using what we've lifted from Jubilee, there's an agreed global sales price. We don't have control over it. What government has control over is the exchange rate and the taxes. So what have we done? You would notice that the taxes have been amended and we have cut back on as much taxation as can be cut back affecting these areas. Number 2, the exchange rate, which was contributing to the escalating price as it was increasing, is also being aggressively managed downwards. And it is a combination of these 2 that you will see. Of course, as you do this, if you see prices translate in another direction on the world market, it will begin to kick in. But the big picture is that in these 100 days, the tax cuts that were promised to move the focus of our economic policy from taxation to production have been done by government. What we need to do now is to work with the intervening agencies, and that's the second step, to work with the intervening agencies so that the full benefits are felt by the people of Ghana. Today, we have done a lot of work on spare parts. We have gone through the classification. We are engaging with ECOWAS. When we are done and the policy implication is done by government, there will still be spare parts dealers at Abosokan or in Kumasi or elsewhere who will now have the onus of translating what we are doing to benefit the people of Ghana. That's another hurdle that we have to jump. And that is a hurdle which, when it comes to, we all have to work on to make the necessary arguments. If you take transport fares, for example, we have done our cuts, yet you saw transport fares go up by a certain margin. It is important to and they have explained that, listen, they had outstanding increments which they never did for
Kojo Ponkruma is Deputy Minister of Information. Some George here thinks that he does more Twitter. But anyway, in your administration, we had Hannah Tete, Minister of Foreign Affairs. She did a lot of Twitter, actually, got a lot of traction on Twitter. But that's not the focus.
Well, as the Foreign Affairs Minister, it's understandable.
That's not the focus. That's not the focus.
You should see where Donald Trump is.
That's not the focus. So let's talk about, let me take your response to what Kojo said.
On the points Kojo said, I mean, Kojo spoke about taxation, and that's a classical example of the failure of this administration. You know, this administration is governing in propaganda, okay, because they come and present this populist documents they've termed the economic policy or for the 2017 financial year, the budget, and they tell they announce in there that day with glee, the finance minister with so much pomp and pageantry announced the abolishment of import taxes on spare parts, 17.5% VAT on spare parts, and whoa, people threw parties on the streets of Abosiokai. People gave gifts out at Swami because they thought that 17.5.
The Vice President said they're working on it.
Oh, so it shows you how substandard our government is. That our government, in its substandard nature, was able to bring to Parliament the abolishment of a tax that they were completely unaware that they couldn't abolish. You come and announce the thing that you've abolished it.
But you can always have a conversation with ECOWAS.
So why didn't you engage ECOWAS? Are you putting the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart?
Let's talk about conflict of interest. You raised that issue at the press
conference.
I'm glad
you see the substandard nature of our government. First, Article 284, conflict of interest. Article 284 of our Constitution, 1992 Constitution, says a public officer shall not put himself in a position where his personal interest conflicts or is likely to conflict. So even if there is no conflict, but there is a potential for conflict with the performance of the functions of his office. You see, in 100 days in government, this government has added 500 Ghana cedis to the debt every Ghanaian owes. 500 Ghana cedis new debt has been added because they've gone to borrow. This same government that told us they won't borrow. And in borrowing, we've seen bonds being floated by the government. I mean, there is a roadshow.
The Vice President said they are replacing expensive debt with less expensive debt.
Absolute
Does that
lies.
not make sense?
Lies. They said we borrowed at too high a cost. That's the past NDC administration at 9.5%. This bond that was done, at what rate? It was at a coupon rate of 19.5% for a 15-year duration. Our debts are due. Instead of the government to pay, the government has gone to borrow more money and push the payments to 15 years because they know then they won't be in government and this will be in government. We should come and work and fix it and pay.
Really?
That's what they've done. Because you owe, pay. Then you say, oh, I'm going to borrow money from somewhere else to pay and push it to 15 years.
From the explanation
and you
of
know
the
why the
Vice
conflict
President,
of interest, forget the Vice President's explanation.
Really?
I've told you substandard. Look,
well, to you it is, but to many Ghanaians it isn't.
But any Ghanaian who heard the Vice President at the time running mate said that NDC borrowing at 9.5% was not smart borrowing, but telling us that smart borrowing is borrowing at 19.5%. I mean,
where lies the conflict of interest?
Conflict of interest. The bond was advertised in the morning, opened in the morning, and closed in the evening of the same day. Less than 24 hours. We were told by the finance ministry that it attracted a lot of interest. False. Only 2 companies came in. One company bought 95% and another company bought 5%. That in itself is questionable with the way Ghana has always done its bonds. So you want to ask, which company did the purchase of 95%? Okay. Why would one company buy 95% of Ghana's bonds? And then who is behind that company? You realize that there is somebody who is on the board of that company that has bought, and the company that bought our bonds is called Franklin Templeton,
okay,
from the US. Now, on the Franklin Templeton board sits a gentleman called Honorable Trevor Gami. He's a board, and he's not just on the board of Templeton, he's also the board chairman for Enterprise Insurance Limited. Now, Enterprise Insurance Limited is owned largely by another Ghanaian company called Data Bank. Data Bank is owned basically and largely by one man, our finance minister. So our finance minister issues a bond. That bond is not widely published. And then one company that a board member of his own associate or affiliated company sits on that other board, comes in there. Oh my goodness, this is fantastic reading for students of law. Article 284, conflict of interest. Again, if you want to know, take Enterprise Group. Let me tell you that, let me give you the board of directors of Enterprise Group. Mr. Keligajipo. He is the group CEO, chief executive of Enterprise Group. Dr. Angela Oforiata. She is the wife of the finance minister. And they're all on the board of the Enterprise Group. And it is this same Enterprise Group that is owned by Data Bank. Okay. It is this same Enterprise Group that is partnering with Franklin Templeton to buy Ghana's bonds that are being issued by the finance minister.
So you see a conflict of interest there?
Oh, well, if anybody doesn't see it, then the sun doesn't rise in the east and set in the west.
I see. What's the minority asking for, by the way, on the back of this?
Oh, for us, we are saying that, look, there must be further disclosure. The finance minister must bring this to Parliament because it's a foreign entity. It's a foreign entity that's engaging in buying of these bonds. Okay. We want it to come to Parliament for full disclosure, and Parliament will then ratify it because we are vested with the powers as per this 1992 Constitution for every international transaction. Okay. If they will be mindful of the fact that the KIA, who they claim they've abolished the tax that doesn't exist for, the shoe shine boy, that their children are the ones going to pay in 15 years for this. But well, Ghanaians, there is hope. The NPP themselves know that in 15 years, the NDC will be in government by then. I mean, we are coming back to power.
15 years. So you'll be in opposition for 15 years?
By the time the loan will mature in 15 years, we'll be in power. We are coming to power, God willing, and by the grace of the NPP, the people of this country, we are coming to power in 2021. But 15 years from now, from 2017, is what? 2032. Okay. We will be in power by then. Okay. We'll be in a position to build this economy right back again. Okay. And be able to offset this loan that they have taken at 19.5%, and we'll take that burden off the children of people who are in Ghana today. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, Charlie, this is me, Dofwa Dadami.
I hear you, Sam George, and I'm sure the government actually, they're not interested in debating. They say they're not interested in debating the NDC, so they won't debate you on
nothing to debate. The facts are there.
Yeah, but of course, there's that's a member of parliament for Ningo Pampam, Sam George, there calling for the finance minister to bring that transaction to parliament for approval. Thank you very much for coming, by the way. Well, let's end that conversation by looking at what happened. I mean, bringing you a wrap of what happened yesterday at the town hall meeting with the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Join us in welcoming the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government has been in office for 100 days now.
The speech was wide-ranging and cut across sectors: energy, economy, education, and more. On employment, Dr. Bawumia announced to a loud applause fresh employment by the Youth Employment Agency.
This year, the Youth Employment Agency, starting in May, will begin the process of hiring 80,000 more youth for their modules. 80,000 this year. That's what we are going for.
Dr. Bawumia had hinted months ago that public sector workers could be laid off under the IMF program. He says government is committed to the program but will not lay off workers.
We are not going to do any worker layoffs. We believe that if you, in fact, do a rationalization, you end up probably needing more workers in many of our places. So I don't think that, and this issue really has not come up in our discussions so far, but we are not going to, we will have pushback if this issue comes up. We are not going to go ahead with a layoff of workers. So
On the economy, Dr. Bawumia said,
we have, as a matter of strategy, begun the process of reprofiling our debt. This just means that we are replacing more expensive debt with less expensive debt, short-term debt with longer-term debt. This is what is happening.
and this is how the government is doing it.
We raised some $2.25 billion of investment that came in to buy this cedi-denominated bond. There was a cedi bond which was issued for 15 years tenor, 15-year tenor, and that brought in 2.25 billion, but we've been able to.
There's now a plan to ensure cheaper electricity. On this, government is capping the cost of a unit of the commodity.
Anyone who is coming to produce power in Ghana and says we want a power purchase agreement, we are saying that you cannot charge us more than 10 cents per kilowatt hour.
And now, government would consider only renewable energy power purchase agreements.
We have saved the country $300 million by reviewing and prioritizing the existing power purchasing agreement. The $300 million, we've essentially canceled about 20 of them. We've asked 4 of them to go ahead and the rest to delay by 2 or 3 years. And in so doing, we have managed to reduce government's liabilities.
On the city, the Vice President said government's sound policies have ensured the currency's free fall is checked.
The city has appreciated in value. When we came in, it was running. Essentially, we have arrested it.
And there were other things the Vice President said the Akufo-Addo government has achieved within its first 100 days. Premix fuel distribution now given to 7 more OMCs, new airlines coming to Ghana, scrutiny of the award of all government contracts, and foreign reserves now up from $6 to $8 billion. In wrapping up, Dr. Bawumia said there's no cause for worry, and that
Ghana is in very good hands. We will work and make sure this economy comes into fruition, and we are going to keep working. We are keeping working. One day, one achievement. So far, we've done plus some jara. So thank you so much. God bless you.
Was put together by Fifi Kumsing, and that's how it all went down yesterday. We'll wrap up there.